I have just spent so long trying to take a photo for my thumbnail, balancing these books precariously, and I wish I was like filming me trying to do it, because it wasn't funny really, but this stack, that was hard work. And if that tells you anything, what that tells you is this video is overdue, because I have too many books to talk about. I mean, this stack, it doesn't look quite ridiculous, really doesn't look that big on the screen, but clearly it is, because it cannot. Right, that's enough. Let's start the video. Hello everyone, I'm Taylor, and I haven't uploaded a video in a while actually. The little voices you may or may not hear in the background, I can hear them, are my two children. It's half term and I'm off with them. Today's a Friday and they've been pretty good all week. And today, on the day that I thought, you know what, I've done my makeup because I had to do something, filming myself for something else. And I thought, why waste the makeup? Because I don't wear it often and it feels like a waste. I know, I haven't yet done, well, I haven't done a video on here in a while. I'll do a YouTube upload, and they choose this day to be the day that they just act absolutely feral. So we may get interrupted, but anyway, the upload I'm doing today, I haven't done one like this yet, and I'll tell you why. I love reading, always have done. I was that bookworm in school. I met Jacqueline Wilson when I was younger and she was my absolute hero. I even wanted to be a writer, like an actual proper writer. And then I wanted to do journalism. Like, it's just always something that I have felt passionate about. But in a while, like since actually before having even children, I just have stopped reading, like physically reading books. And I don't know why, because I love books. And I just like thinking about what I can do in 2023. Towards the end of 2022, I started reading a little bit more and forgot how much I absolutely love it. And I thought, why didn't I make that my thing for 2023? Go back to being Bookworm Taylor. And I love Bookworm Taylor. Bookworm Taylor is the best version of Taylor. And it's a nice little escape for me. I read when I would usually otherwise be scrolling on my phone, and I'm trying to do that less. I just think I do it too much. So yeah, and you know, I just love reading. Like, a physical book on holiday is just the best. When you're on your phone, like, I find it really uncomfortable being on a sun lounger, scrolling on my phone. I can't even see the screen because the sun, and I just thought, you know what, we're planning to go on holiday this year, fingers crossed. Bring a nice book, you know, there's all these reasons to get back into books again. And also been really busy with my teacher training, and it's been a nice little escape because that's been intense. So today I thought I'd chat about all the books that I've read so far in 2023. I have read 14 books so far in 2023, but I only physically have 13 here with me because I lent one to a friend. So yeah, I just thought that I would discuss them. I have been uploading what I thought of them on my Instagram. I've made like a little books highlight, and I spent like 2 hours last night or the night before I think, updating my Goodreads. The first book I finished in 2023 was this one, The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. This is the third book in a series. So there was the Thursday Murder Club, which was first, and then The Man Who Died Twice, which I have on my bookshelf over there. I've lent the Thursday Murder Club to my mum, and she has literally destroyed it. It is so mashed. She has not been taking care of it at all. Anyway, so I like the books. Like, if I was to rate them, they'd be between like 3 and 4 like stars sort of thing. I actually really enjoyed this one. This one was probably my favourite of the 3. And then I got to the end and I thought, for some reason, I thought it was like a trilogy. There was only going to be 3. There is a 4th one coming out this year. So yeah, and it gives me like ITV drama vibes. This could be like adapted into an ITV drama. It's basically about like a group of elderly people who they start like a Thursday murder club where they discuss cold cases, and they have like various backgrounds. It's Ron, Ibrahim, Joyce and Elizabeth, and that's like their passion they have in common, and they start to get involved in cold cases and trying to solve them. And then basically this is the third one, so the story just like progresses from the first to the second, and they have like different cases, but then also things that get dredged up from the past as well, so it follows through into the books. And I thought it was really good. I think I gave this 4 stars. Yeah, I did enjoy reading that. I think the second book I finished was this one. Now, this is not a new book. I thought it was new because I was seeing it so much over like TikTok and Instagram. But it was actually published. So it was published in 2017 in America, and then it's published over here in 2021. So fairly newish over here, I suppose. But I've been seeing a lot of it, and personally, the more I see of something over like social media, sometimes it has the opposite effect on me. Sometimes it puts me off and I can be stubborn and I'm like, I'm not going to touch that because it's overhyped. I'm going to read it and be very disappointed. This is not, people are not overhyping this one. This was amazing. I devoured it in, I think it took me one evening to read this. Evelyn Hugo is a Hollywood actress. Back in the 60s, was it from the 50s through to the 60s, and it goes all the way like to the 80s, and basically a journalist goes to her house. Evelyn Hugo specifically requested that journalist, and she goes to her house to get like her life story. Evelyn Hugo was married 7 times, 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so she just talks about each relationship, so it kind of flashes back and forth. The present being her discussing it with the journalist, and the like back being like her talking about her husband and her relationships with those husbands. And now she's like quite elderly and reclusive, and yeah, there's a twist at the end, and I just totally enjoyed it. I thought it was immersive. I really liked the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes, and I'm going to at some point read Daisy Jones and the Six. Carrie Soto is back, like the other books in the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe, because apparently they collide and overlap, and I find that really fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Like, I would give that 5 stars, and I think it is a book that I would like revisit from time to time. I don't often say that because once I read a book, I store it up here. But I think and I would definitely recommend this to my friends, lend it to my mum, that sort of thing. It was really good. I think it's being, unless I've imagined this, adapted into a Netflix series, I think. So the third book I read isn't physically here. It was Molly May's autobiography. Totally different style of book. I like Molly May. I got it as a Christmas present. I enjoyed, like, it's one of those ones with pictures in the middle, and it feels like some sort of reward when you make it to the middle and you can like look through these pictures. So I just liked that. I like life stories, so I did enjoy reading it. The writing isn't like amazing or inspiring, and there's no real like trauma involved in the story or anything, you know, like crazy hurdles that she's had to overcome, apart from after she got famous, when obviously like the trolls and that sort of thing, which is interesting to read about because it's just not very nice. There is that side of things that we forget. I think like I'd put it somewhere between like, 2 stars sounds pretty harsh, but somewhere between like 2-3 stars, because it was an enjoyable read, but it was like, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but I like Molly May. Now after that, the order that I read things seems to get pretty hazy. I think that I then started reading the Bridgerton books, like restarting them, because actually in the end of 2022 I read 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I did like a little TikTok about what I thought about those as well, because although they're the same author, the writing's very similar, it's about the same family, like the stories are so different, and some I just really enjoyed and some I really just didn't get on board with and disliked, which is weird. This is one of those, unfortunately. I didn't enjoy this one too much, to Sir Philip with Love. If I was going to rate it, I'd rate it about 2 stars out of 5. It's Eloise Bridgerton's. If you're familiar with Bridgerton, it's a Netflix series now. So the Bridgertons are siblings. They are named from A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the alphabet, like the starting letters of their name. So I'll try and remember. I think it's Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory and Hyacinth. 4 girls and 4 boys. The mother is Violet. Their dad died when they were younger, and it's just their stories of so it's set in the Regency era in London, and it's their stories growing up and they're trying to find husbands and wives basically, and each sibling has a very, very different story. Eloise's story I was really looking forward to, because if you know Eloise from the Netflix series, she's kind of a really independent, funny, sassy lady, and it just didn't come across in this book. I think Netflix have either over exaggerated her character, it felt like a completely different character. Didn't fall in love with the love story. I thought it seemed a bit silly, I don't know, and I feel harsh saying that, but it just didn't look, and I was honestly, and it sounds harsh, but I was counting how many pages I had left, counting down the pages till it was over. It felt like a bit of a slog. Not my favourite. When He Was Wicked. So this is Francesca Bridgerton's story. The stories don't go in order either of A for Anthony's story isn't first and Benedict's isn't second. It's all kind of jumbled up. So this is, did I just say Francesca Bridgerton's story? This one I gave 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Something about it was really immersive to read. The sentences are really beautiful, some really gorgeous literature in this book. Yes, so Francesca marries somebody, and then he dies quite early into their marriage, and then Michael, which is her late husband's cousin, is sort of around. He's always been in love with Francesca and she doesn't know that. So when the husband dies, it's enter Michael, but it's not done like that, because she doesn't quite know that he's in love with her, and it's their love story. And yeah, it was just gorgeous. It felt authentic. I believed it. I rooted for the main characters. I thought the chemistry between them was real, and I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a delight to read from start to finish. This one, I wasn't counting down the pages. It's one of those you didn't want to end. 7 is this one. It's In His Kiss. This is Hyacinth Bridgerton's story. So she is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So she's the youngest Bridgerton sibling, but her story's not last, it's 7th. This one I really, really enjoyed as well. Gareth, who is her love interest in the story, is one of my, actually no, he's probably my favourite male in the Bridgerton universe. So out of all the brothers and all the sisters love interests, he is my favourite. He's charismatic, really funny, and he was a really good match for Hyacinth. We don't know much about Hyacinth from the Netflix series because she's really young in the ones that are sort of on now that they're making, because she's the youngest sibling. So as a person, we don't know much about her, but I really liked her from what I found out about her in this book. From what I remember, it's quite a slow story. So the story sometimes felt discombobulated, the plot was all over the place and you wasn't quite sure where it was going, what was going on. I kind of had that feeling when navigating the story, but I think overall it's a solid read because the characters kind of make up for that. Literally, I just blitzed out all the Bridgertons in one go after that, because I just wanted to kind of get the Bridgerton series off of my back. So this is number 8. So this is the last Bridgerton siblings story, because there's 8 siblings. So Gregory, so he's the youngest brother, so the youngest male sibling of the Bridgertons. And this story I really enjoyed, actually, I must say. So Gregory is not really interested in settling down and getting married. He's the last one to sort of do so. All his brothers have settled down, and he goes to a party one night, and he instantly falls in love, like love at first sight, with this lady called Hermione. Hermione, though, is promised to someone else. She's in love with someone else. Actually, she's not promised to someone else, she's just in love with somebody else. And kind of her heart is there, and she doesn't really give Gregory doesn't give Gregory the time of day. See, I've still got Gareth on my brain from the other story, but she doesn't really give Gregory the time of day. And Hermione's friend Lucy sort of tries to matchmake them and sort of like help Gregory, and then him and Lucy kind of inevitably get closer. So it's that story. This one I thought started off slow, like very slow. I was sort of reading it thinking, when's it gonna kick in, what's gonna happen? And then in the middle, it's got like really good development, and like the pace is good, and you're kind of like, yes, keep it going. And then like the random, like the last 30 or so pages, like the end of the book, it's so random and rushed. It sort of left me like, I finished it and turned the last page and honestly was like, is that some sort of joke? It can't finish in that way. It just didn't feel, it was almost, it was just honestly very, very rushed. It didn't feel a part of the original, like the previous 270 odd pages of the book, which I found strange. But overall, I did like it. Just the ending was a no-no for me. This is number 9, but the sibling stories have all been told. This is the Bridgertons Happily Ever After. It's basically a summary of each Bridgerton couple years later. So years after those stories, it sort of catches you up and tells you what's going on. Now, I rated this on my Goodreads 2 stars because I just thought it didn't need to be published, and that sounds, and I don't like being negative about books at all. I really dislike it because I think every book is like has some qualities in some way, but I think there's really no need for this. Let those stories just be. It just felt like I was reading, it just felt like a waste of time. I didn't feel satisfied by having caught up with the Bridgerton siblings years later in any way. I didn't get any satisfaction or happiness or reward from it. All it did was it just used my time, and selfishly I was thinking I could be reading something else right now. So I just think there was no need for this one personally, but obviously I needed to complete that Bridgerton set. So this was number 9. It was just, I think I was waiting. I had no other books that I had ready to read, so I picked up this because I got this as a present, or did I buy it myself? May have done when it first came out, back in 2020. Oops. So, and it was literally, ironically, collecting dust on my bookshelf, so I just thought I'd give it a go because I hadn't read it. It's just Mrs. Hinch's memoir. It was again, it's like a good, like just like enjoyable read. It wasted, I think I read it over 2 evenings, and it has lovely pictures inside. And I said to you, like I said, the Molly May, I do like an autobiography with some pictures, so I do love that, and I really like Mrs. Hinch as a person in the same way that I like Molly May. But again, it's just like the writing wasn't anything amazing, and but I just enjoyed reading about her because I just like life stories in general. I think you can't knock someone's life story because everyone's had such a different life, and they're just good to read about. So I think like something like 3 stars I gave it. So yeah, good read. Then I visited my friend. She's got like a little library under her stairs basically with all the books you could ever want. It'd keep me going all the way through 2023 2024, 2025. It's honestly like a little slice of heaven under there. And I went and borrowed some books. I borrowed 4 books from her. Oh, nearly had a repeat of the book tower falling down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I borrowed these from her. And the first one I read out of them was this one. I put it on my Instagram like a little, which one shall I read first? And this one it won by quite a bit actually. So I don't know if a lot of people have read this maybe, but it's called You Can't Run by Mandy Thomas. So she is a mother of 4. One of her children you might recognise from X Factor. Jermaine Douglas, I think his name was. He was on X Factor. As soon as my friend told me his name, I remembered him straight away. Him there. He came like second on X Factor at one point, and it's basically a domestic abuse story. It's really hard to read in the way that you can't believe what you're reading, but I think it's an important read, a necessary and interesting read, and Mandy can write. Like, her writing is amazing. The detail and the way that she can remember all those details from decades ago. And honestly, when I talked about it on my Instagram, I said I honestly couldn't describe the day I had yesterday in so much descriptive detail that she was remembering from decades ago, literally from the moment she met her abuser, who ended up being the father to her children. Even like she can remember that, and that was in the like 80s. I can't remember things like that. I just think it's amazing. And I think she was told when she was younger that she was really good at writing, and it shows, because this book is amazing. How one human being can have that much strength also is beyond me, but this book kept me absolutely hooked. Like, have to put up like a trigger warning, because obviously domestic abuse story, there's all sorts of, you know, things described in this book associated with that to the extreme, so just to put it out there. But this story is hands down, like, when I finished it, it was like, I gave it like 5 stars, and it was the best book I read of 2023. We're on par with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but this, and it's not usually something I would pick up, just because I prefer, as a rule, I just prefer fiction. But I'm so glad that I chose to borrow this, because honestly, it's an amazing read. Next one I read was The Hunting Party. Now, I was so excited about this. So literally at the back, it's a very short blurb. It says, in a remote hunting lodge deep in the Scottish wilderness, old friends gather for New Year. The beautiful one, the golden couple, the volatile one, the new parents, the quiet one, the city boy, the outsider. And the victim, not an accident, a murder among friends. Wow. Lucy Foley, had never heard of Lucy Foley before. I think she's a really good writer, actually, and I enjoyed the back and forth. It skips between present being the body's just been discovered, and past being when they arrive at the lodge for New Year's Eve. And goes back and forth. So someone's already been murdered, and then so when it goes back, you're kind of doing some guesswork, like, oh, who's it going to be as the days go on. I did guess who I thought the murder victim was going to be quite early on. I don't know why, I just had a feeling it was going to be that person, and it was that person. So I think that maybe that's quite obvious that it's going to be that person. I'm not sure, but this kept me gripped. I really enjoyed this book. It kept me gripped, and I've been seeing some mixed things on it. For about, so how many pages is it? It's like 380-ish pages. Now, for about 350 of those, it had my heart. It was so good. The ending, I didn't like. And I started to panic a little bit as I was coming to the end, because I realised I had like 10 or so pages left. So, you know, the book starts feeling really thin towards the end. And, oh dear. So then no one's even at our door, because I'm facing the window. And when I realised I had like about 10 pages left to read, I did start panicking and thinking, what is going to happen? How can this story be wrapped up in those 10 pages? Because it still felt like it wasn't anywhere near close to being finished. And it did just end, and honestly it just ended all of a sudden. I was left with more questions than answers, so I was quite actually frustrated by the ending, and I wouldn't say it put me off the whole book and I would then rate it like 1 star, but it just annoyed me. Like, honestly, it just, yeah. But I thought it was a good read. I then read one I picked up in Tesco, just on a whim, because it was like a £5, and I was like, I'm getting it because it says Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover, I read Verity, which was my first Colleen Hoover book, at the end of 2022, devoured it in a day, loved it to pieces. You probably have heard of Verity. If you haven't, then, and you enjoy books, buy it, read it, it's really good. But we're not talking about 2022 books, we're talking about 2023 books. So this is November the 9th by Colleen Hoover, and that's why I picked it up, because I was like, oh, I like Verity. I've been seeing Colleen Hoover. If you walk into Waterstones, like, her name's just everywhere. So let's give Colleen Hoover a try. So the characters are Fallon and Ben. Fallon is the daughter of a TV star, and she was a TV star herself before she got burnt in an accident, and then sort of like Hollywood didn't really want her anymore, so she started getting less and less work in TV. She has burns sort of across her face and like the left side of her body. She meets Ben one evening. He's an aspiring writer, and they sort of have this weird like whirlwind evening, and she's about to leave to go to New York to live there, and they are currently both based in LA, and sort of like they have come up with this idea that they will meet up every year on November the 9th. It was November the 9th that they met, and then every year they decide to meet up. They don't exchange numbers or have each other on social media or anything, so they have no other contact throughout the whole of the rest of the year, only on November the 9th. And they decided to do it for 5 years. Like, that's like the limit they set themselves to do it for 5 years. The concept, I like, kind of like the concept, but kind of don't, because I think it's very airy-fairy, and would that happen in real life? I do prefer fiction to be generally realistic. So I wasn't sure about that, and also I didn't like Fallon or Ben as characters. I found Ben a bit too much, a bit overbearing, and there was something about Fallon that frustrated me as well. So when you already don't like the main characters, I wasn't like rooting for them to get together or anything like that, because I didn't feel it. So that was a bit weird. And I was really bored by the first 100 or so pages. It really did. I had to motivate myself to keep going. It did get better in the middle, marginally better, but overall I just don't think it had the same magic as Verity. Again, there's a twist at the end. I didn't see the twist coming, so that's a bonus, because I do like to be surprised. But yeah, it was lacking the magic that Verity had for me. I couldn't, I couldn't tell it was a Colleen Hoover book. We are getting there now. I've only got 2 books left. One Night with the Duke, my friend, these are like from my friend, back to my friend's library. Bridgerton vibes, like very Bridgerton vibes, also set in the Regency era, also set in London. So yeah, very similar. This is about 19-year-old Eliza Melrose. She's the daughter of a sort of like an industrialist. Her dad's just suddenly got really big in the world of publication and printing. So her family are what they call new money. They live on Balmoral Square, and I think Balmoral Square is like a series now. So this is number 1 in the Balmoral Square series, I think. So maybe I haven't looked into it for reasons I'll get into, because I didn't really enjoy the book. But I think the other houses on Balmoral Square, then it might tell their stories, because it does describe, there's like a little, I think, semicircle of houses, which is weird because it's Balmoral Square. It might be a square. Anyway, and then one night, she kind of becomes acquainted with the Duke of Chester, who lives straight across opposite her in Balmoral Square, and he's like a disgraced duke, so he is accused of murdering his family, so nobody really likes him, and she is betrothed, like she is due to marry someone else very soon. So it's about that story. I didn't enjoy it pretty much at all. And I feel just horrible saying that. Very different to Bridgerton's style of writing, although set in the exact same era and time. It sometimes felt like I was reading a historic romance, as it should, because it is one. But then sometimes it felt really modern, like almost like it was being written by two different authors. And I found that kind of jarring, like they were butting heads, those two different styles of writing, and I didn't enjoy that. The romance was not believable. I think it all come on too quick. I just didn't like the storyline behind it. The ending was rushed. It was like they picked the ending out of a hat. I don't know, I couldn't get on board with it. And it's one of those, again, that I was thinking, how many pages have I got left? Because I just wanted it to be over with. So not for me. But I have heard that Jodie Ellen Malpass, this is the first I've read of her books, is a really brilliant author. And I'd be interested to read other stuff from her. I don't know if I would go near the Balmoral Square series again, just because of what this was like. But again, it might be an example of the Bridgerton series, where some I really, really liked and some I really just could have, you know, done without. So maybe it's like that, the Balmoral Square series, where some you really don't enjoy, but some you really do. So maybe I should write it completely off. And then the last book is Lucy in the Sky. So this is from my friend as well. And this is a really old book, 2007 it was published. Page Toon, I've seen a lot about. She's still writing now, so this book is 16 years old. And I've seen a lot about Page Toon. And I'm going to look into more Page Toon books because I honestly enjoyed this. Like from page number 1, I was hooked. And it's not really a small, but I mean, it's nearly 400 pages. I finished it over 2 evenings, I think. And I finished the first evening and I was kind of like tired, needed to go to bed, but I didn't even want to go to bed. I wanted to carry on reading. And then I couldn't wait to pick it up the next evening, and I knew I just wanted to finish it really quickly. I really enjoyed it. I loved, so it's Lucy used to live in Australia. She then moved back to England, and since she moved back to England, she has settled with her boyfriend James, who is a lawyer. Lucy works in PR. They both live in London. She gets invited back to Australia for a wedding of her childhood friend Molly and Sam. Sam she had a crush on when she was younger back in Australia. She gets invited back for the wedding, and she meets Sam's brother Nathan, who is a surfer in Australia, and they sort of hit it off. But she has James back home, and it's sort of like about, so she has a fortnight in Australia before she has to return home, and it's sort of her story, so like almost like a love triangle between so it's Lucy and Nathan and Lucy and James back home. I really enjoyed it. I thought it felt real. I didn't think it was rushed. I thought the feelings were very, I could imagine that they were the feelings that I would feel if I was in that situation. It did feel quite raw. I really liked Lucy as a character, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. I really fell in love actually with Page Toon's style of writing. I thought it was so descriptive. It was also quite really funny, and that's why I'd be interested in reading more Page Toon. Because I just honestly fell a little bit in love with her writing. And I agree with Marion Keyes on the front here. I loved it. I couldn't put it down because that was me. So that's it. That's all the books. Thank you for listening to me chat about them. I honestly am loving getting back into reading. I've set a goal on Goodreads this year. Join me over there, by the way, on Goodreads. I'll put my profile link below because I'm loving just being on there again. I have set a goal. You know, you have your 2023 reading goal you can set on Goodreads. I've set a target for 50 books. So I'm on book number 15 at the moment. Hoping to finish that by the end of February. It's Little Women, actually. It's like I did want to read more classics in 2023. I say more, I just want to read classics in 2023 because I don't think I've ever read a classic. I was having this conversation with my mum and sister, and the classics like Little Women, A Christmas Carol, save that for Christmas though. What else? Why are they escaping me? To Kill a Mockingbird, War and Peace. Honestly, these classics I want to read, and don't get me wrong, Wuthering Heights, I know some are going to be a slog. we're not going to enjoy every classic. Times have moved on, but do I want to expose myself to them? Yes, I do. So I've started with Little Women. I'm on page 68. I am liking it so far. And I've also downloaded the Little Women film on to Sky, so I can watch that after. The 1994 one. So I can compare it. I love a comparison between the book and the film. So yeah, so join me on there because I'm very active on there now. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to skedaddle. I'm going to drink this cup of tea, hopefully while it's still hot. I've just gone in to check on the boys, and they are wreaking a little bit of havoc, so I'm going to have to probably drink it in there whilst I watch them. But thanks for sticking around. I am planning to make more videos like this in the future because I'm basically a book account now. Like, this is all I've been doing. This is all I've been doing in my spare time. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.